USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to Fine Tooning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Monday, July 7th, which is a crazy time of year for folks who work your side of the street, Drew. What was it? The Anime Expo just wrapped up at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and then just 2 weeks after this podcast officially posts on Tuesday, July 8th, Comic-Con International is just about to get underway down in San Diego. Preview night is Wednesday, July 22nd, and then San Diego Comic-Con officially gets underway the next day, Thursday, July 23rd. Are you going to be doing Comic-Con this year? Do you know yet?
Yes. Well, I will be there for a panel on Friday the 25th that I'm hosting. So,
cool.
Yeah. So when I'm probably going to get more information this week, so it'll be fully revealed next week.
There we go.
Yes.
What Mr. Taylor is alluding to is honestly one of the most frustrating aspects of San Diego Comic-Con, that they don't reveal the schedule to less than a week out?
Yes. And, it's very frustrating when you're trying to, get a train ticket to go down. Yeah, because I come in, I do my bit, I leave. So yeah, it's a little frustrating. But 25th, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, hopefully by next week's show we can reveal what the panel will be about. But no, that's cool to know. Okay.
But Anime Expo seems like it was great. It's just, as you know, Jim, it takes place over the weekend where everyone wants to not work at all, which I've never really understood. But it was apparently a huge success, so I'm very happy about that.
Same thing I heard, and again, just trifle frustrating that they picked that weekend. Again, it's like, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to come to Anime Expo? I do, but do I also want to have a long weekend off? I also want that as well. So yeah, it's a little tough.
There you go. And to be honest, both the Anime Expo and Comic-Con are off the table this year because, again, Nancy had hip surgery earlier this year. In fact, we are in the final window, so to speak. She's off her walker. She's no longer using a crutch. We do have at least 4 more weeks of PT to get through before the doctors will effectively cut her loose. So looking forward to being able to travel again in August. But anyway, we're sharing dates, so many dates at this part of the show. Here's a sad bit of news, Drew. Boop the Musical, which the Max Fleischer family had in the works as far back as 2004, is going to be ending this coming Sunday, July 13th. And I think we talked about this on the show previously. This is a stage musical built around the classic cartoon character Betty Boop. Tried out in Chicago back in the fall, early winter of 2023. Did well enough that the decision was made to bring Boop the Musical to Broadway. Opened at the Broadhurst Theater in early April of this year and got relatively decent reviews. That said, though, Boop the Musical only got 3 Tony nominations: Best Costume, Best Choreography, and 1 for Jasmine Amy Rogers, who plays the title role in the show. And when Boop didn't take home a single award at this year's Tony, handwriting was kind of on the wall. Though, that said, there is talk that this stage show may be sent out on a tour next year, and would love to see this one in person. Have you seen anything from this one at all, Drew?
I haven't seen anything from it, but I've talked to people who have seen it, and everyone says that it's wonderful, which is sort of disappointing to hear that it's closing already. Also, how many empty amphitheaters are there at Universal Florida that they could stick this thing into?
Yeah, this is also true. But as as an animation fan, and you know you're Max Fleischer, so these are shorts that have the whole follow the bouncing ball thing. Evidently, in the second act, there's actually a number where Betty uses her cartoon magic there's a realistic New York skyline with a moon hanging over it. And she turns the moon into a cartoon moon with the big smiling face, which then becomes the bouncing ball for an audience sing-along. And I wish I could have seen that in person. But anyway, ending its short stay on Broadway after 25 previews and 112 regular performances. But that's the hard rule of show business. You have to actually do business, sell tickets. And speaking of talking about box office, in a moment, we'll switch to talking about this past weekend, what happened at the domestic box office. But before we do, need to acknowledge our sponsor, which is unlockedmagic.com, which is where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlocked Magic is the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. So just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and then you're on the way with more cash to spend. Where, if we're going to stick with the overall theme of this podcast, animation-related stuff, which reminds me, do they have any souvenirs yet for that Little Mermaid, the musical adventure thing that just opened at Disney's Hollywood Studios back in May? Have you seen any of the videos or anything of this? Or?
I haven't. I've heard that it's much more animation based, actually, this new one, which I would love to see. But I don't really remember the original show all that well. But I know it's a fan favorite, so I'm glad it's sticking around in some capacity.
Well, what always intrigued me about this is the theater pushed you right out through the animation courtyard, but you had no choice. You had to walk through all of these racks of aerial-related crud right after seeing the show. And, it was always interesting to watch the parents who came out of the darkness and the air conditioning into the blistering Orlando sun and then have their children berating them, I want the aerial thing. And
yeah, it was kind of like an outdoorsy kind of store, right? It was not like a indoor.
No, not at all. I mean, it would just push the sales racks up as close to the doors as the fire marshals will allow, and then just watch what happens. But anyway, back to our sponsor, UnlockMagic.com. You need Disney or Universal tickets, please check them out. And if you do buy admissions material from them, be sure and say that Jim and Drew from Fine Tooning sent you. Anyway, now on to this past weekend's box office numbers. Not exactly shocking to say that Jurassic World Rebirth overperformed, seventh film in the series, and correct me if I'm wrong here, originally projected to do, 80 million over first 3 days, and then maybe 135 over the 5-day-long 4th of July weekend, and it went north of those numbers, 91 million for 3 days and 147, and you've seen this, right, Drew?
I have seen it. I really liked it a lot, and yeah, I think it made like 315 or something worldwide, so
that it did.
I think that the seventh installment, Jim, will not be the last installment in the Jurassic Park franchise, is my guess.
And what's so interesting about that, I don't know if you read, there was a wonderful interview with David Cope out there about working on this film, and they made evidently a conscious choice with this one rather than deliberately laying the breadcrumbs for a sequel. It's like, no, this is a self-contained story, and if you enjoy it, yeah, we'll go back. But overall, where would you put it in the series?
I think it's one of the stronger ones. I mean, I certainly think it's the best of this Jurassic World era of movies for sure. And if you like Gareth Edwards, if you liked, Rogue One and his Godzilla and things like that, it definitely delivers. Beautiful animation by ILM, as always, Jim. And now I just need to go down the street and meet Dolores at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Oh, that's right. They're doing Dolores. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that dinosaur's name, but it looks like kind of a little baby Triceratops almost.
Yeah,
and it's in a backpack. Perfect.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Can't wait to see that. But speaking of Universal Pictures, also this past weekend, the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon blew past $500 million in ticket sales worldwide. So you got to assume the folks at Comcast and NBC Universal are very happy with the way that studio's output is doing this summer. On the other hand, Disney, somewhat of a mixed bag. Live action Lilo and Stitch now sits at 960 million worldwide ticket sales, and from what I'm hearing at friends of the studio, right now they expect this Dean Fleischer Camp film to join the $1 billion Earners Club, which, by the way, only 57 films in all of Hollywood history have ever breached that box office threshold. Anyway, they expect Lilo and Stitch to become a $1 billion earner by July 25th, which, by the way, is the date that Fantastic Four First Steps arrives in theaters. And are you headed out to a junket on that anytime soon?
I hope so. I think the junket is in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, I should know soon enough. But, yeah, also the first day of Comic-Con, Jim. So, it's all coming together. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Anyway, now, as for Pixar's Elio, with that animated film only sitting at $55 million in ticket sales as its third weekend in North American theaters comes to a close, it's increasingly hard to put a positive spin on what's happening box office wise with this Pixar film, and it's also lagging overseas, just 41 million, worldwide box office total of 96 million, which isn't great news when your studio will admit that a film cost 150 million to make, and though other people in the studio have suggested the numbers quite a bit higher than that. Did you see Ryan Jajewski's piece in The Hollywood Reporter about what happened behind the scenes on Elio?
I did, and I want to point out to everyone that I did not write that article. So no one can get mad at me from Pixar or anywhere else that I did not write there. I thought it was very interesting. I think that it's not the full story that I've heard, but that it does give a kind of a interesting look at some of the areas where the movie was reworked and reconfigured, and I thought it was interesting the thing about maybe taking out some of the more explicitly gay content. Which obviously we've seen them do before with Win or Lose, so I don't know if that was like a corporate mandate or what, but yeah.
What's interesting to me is I think Ryan brings up there was, of course, the Ron DeSantis battle with Disney back in April of 2022, the whole don't say gay thing. And I guess there was also a test screening of Elio in the same window of time out in Arizona that then led Pixar executives to sort of start talking about maybe we need to retool. And I guess what's intriguing about at least what Ryan is suggesting is that this was preemptive. This wasn't coming down from Disney. This was something that Pixar supposedly decided to do on its own.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that part of it, but I think it's the thing that actually struck me the most was that they polled the test screening audience and said how many people would pay to see this in a movie theater, and nobody raised their hands. And I think that actually says less about the quality of the movie and more about the way that Disney has conditioned people to watch Pixar movies, because over the pandemic, obviously, we had three of the best Pixar movies ever, Soul, Turning Red, and Luca, all debut on Disney Plus, and it's just like, okay, this is the new normal.
No. I mean, you're not wrong. And in fact, I always feel like it's crucial when you're telling a story to sort of set it in the time when it occurred. Face it, 2022, we're still in that post-pandemic moment where the theatrical experience isn't nearly what it was. And, people are kind of uncomfortable about going to theaters still in that window. So that would have been actually an understandable reaction from an audience back in the day. But at the same time, you can understand why that would have freaked out executives at Disney and Pixar. But
it'll get across the 100 million line, and that'll be good, and I'm sure it'll be a huge hit on Disney Plus. So I mean, there are different metrics to gauge the Elio success, I think.
Now,
sure.
Interesting that you bring that up, because from what I'm hearing is that Elio will be on Disney Plus in 3 months' time. In fact, supposedly it's now the live-action Snow White timeline, which, again, that debuted in theaters March 21st, debuted on Disney Plus June 11th. That's 83 days after theatrical. So following sort of that yardstick, we can expect Elio to turn up on that streaming service probably in the second week of September. So, but as Drew pointed out, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad film. If anything, the history of Disney is filled with movies that don't necessarily find their audience theatrically. I mean, The Rocketeer from '91 is a perfect example. But anyway, all right, that subscription streaming, the television side, and when we get back, we'll talk a bit more about what's going on in the television animation world. But first, this.
Meet the most capable CR-V Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CR-V Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
Make your next vacation unforgettable. On Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Star of the Seas, it's everything you've loved about every family vacation you've ever been on, with mind-blowing thrills at the largest water park at sea, 7 onboard pools for every level of chill, more than 40 ways to dine and drink, and even more to enjoy at our award-winning private island, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. This is the new Star of the Seas. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, so we were just talking about Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and how the most recent installment of that series, Jurassic World Rebirth, is doing so well at the box office. Worth noting, though, Drew, that there is an animated component to this franchise, and that's Camp Cretaceous, which debuted on Netflix back in September of 2020. And this animated series features a story that sort of ran in parallel to the events that occurred in the first Jurassic World movie, but it ran for 5 seasons and was so popular that, well, Universal Pictures, DreamWorks Television and Animation, and Amblin Entertainment put a sequel in the works. Camp Cretaceous Chaos Theory debuted on Netflix last year, May of 2004 to be exact, and picked up the story some 6 years after the events that happened in the first Camp Cretaceous series. And this animated follow-up has been just as popular as the original, which is why just last month, June of 2025, we learned a 4th season of Camp Cretaceous was announced and will debut on the streaming service in November 2005, though, as Drew always reminds me, they announce it, but this is already going on. So the first series was 5. Do we assume that's what's going to happen as well with this one?
I hope so. I love these shows. So the more Camp Cretaceous / Chaos Theory, the better in my book.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, supported by a merch line, and starting next May 2026, people will actually be able to visit Camp Cretaceous. This will be a land at the Universal Kids Resort, and when I say resort, it's a theme park for young kids, as well as a dedicated hotel. It's kind of Universal's Legoland. But it's going to feature a Jurassic World themed land, which celebrates this animated series, and will be home to this theme park's one and only true thrill ride, the Jurassic World Cretaceous Coaster. This is Frisco, Texas. Are you familiar with where that is in the state at all, Drew?
It's near Dallas, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Kind of outside Dallas. Yeah, I didn't spend too much time. I grew up in Texas, but did not spend a huge amount of time in Dallas. But obviously, I love that there is a major theme park development going in there. And if you've been watching the flight logs for Disney's corporate jet, you have seen that they too have frequented Texas in the last year or so. Although I've heard,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just take a look and see how many times they've stopped in Austin. Yeah.
Hey, wow. All right. A teeny bit of news there. Okay. Speaking of stuff we talked about earlier in today's show, we were, again, talking about Boop the Musical, how it's closing at the Broadhurst, July 13th. But again, this happens with Broadway shows, folks. They close. Case in point, Disney's stage version of Frozen that opened at the St. James back in March of 2018 and then closed March of 2020, along with the rest of Broadway, thanks to the pandemic. Disney Theatrical did send Frozen out on a North American tour, and that just ended September of last year after more than 1,200 performances and stops in some 62 cities. Also mounted companies in Australia and Japan, and not to mention a version that also played in London's West End. In fact, it opened just after concerns about COVID began to lessen. And that production of Frozen the Musical ran at the Theatre Royale in Drury Lane, starting from September of 2001 through September of 2004. Racked up more than 1,000 performances, a 3-year run. And I bring this up because just before they shuttered the West End version of Frozen the Musical, Disney Theatrical brought in a professional camera team and filmed this musical for the stage in its entirety. And on June 20th, this version of Frozen the Musical became available for viewing over at Disney Plus. And have you eyeballed this yet, Drew?
No, I haven't. I just laughed that they called it Frozen the Hit Broadway Musical. That was my reaction. But I can't wait to watch it. I mean, there's like so many new songs by the Lopez's, and yeah, I can't wait to see it. Have you watched it yet?
I have not. And Drew is actually correct about. I saw it on Broadway, and yeah, it had its issues. I mean, hit Broadway musical is definitely stretching it. On the other hand, did you see where the Lopez's are doing the score for that musical version of The Princess Bride?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. That started off as a Disney theatrical project, and now has since moved away. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're ready for anything that they do. They're the best.
But here's what I don't understand. Just last night on ABC, in fact, as I was working on the show notes for what we're recording right now, Nancy was watching The Princess Bride on ABC. And I always have to stop and watch Billy Crystal as Miracle Max to Blave. I don't understand it. This is clearly a film that Disney values. They're shown on ABC. So what happened there? We got to dig in there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Speaking of things we have to check out here. Okay, how many of you remember X-Men 97, the animated series they debuted on Disney Plus back in March of last year, 2024? This is a revival of X-Men, the animated series from 92-97. So well received, Drew. Even before the second season of this revival arrived on that streaming service, third season was put in development. Now, mind you, them actually delivering season 2 has proven to be something of a challenge for Marvel Studios Animation. What was supposed to have arrived on that subscription streaming service now been pushed back to 2026. And as for season 3, I'm beginning to wonder if that's going to happen, Drew, given that I've heard that a lot of the budget that was supposedly allocated for the production of season 3 is now being used to rewrite and retool season 2. Have you heard anything about this at all?
Well, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama there because Beau DeMayo, who created and largely wrote the first season, was fired right before it came out, and we still are not sure totally what happened there. He's very active on social media, but
he is.
And is not particularly favorable to his former employees, but yeah.
Well, I bring this up because just last week, X-Men 97, the art and making of the animated series, this is a 224-page coffee table book from Abrams. It hit store shelves on July 1st. Just leafing through it made me really want to go back and check out the 10 episodes of season 1 of X-Men 97. But that said, you're going to wind up frustrated thinking that, well, where's 2? And how long do we have to wait for 2?
Yeah. I loved the first season so much. So, yeah, this is... It's a shame how it's shaking out, but yeah, if we can just get season 2, that would be great. Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that, well, I loved, the teaser trailer for Cat in the Hat that Warner Brothers put out last week, which, by the way, not due to hit theaters till February 27th, 2006. What did you think of that?
I thought it looked wonderful. It looked so cute. I was just totally smitten by it. And I appreciate that they went bigger. They went, fully animated craziness. And I think the character design and everything is just so wonderful. That end tag of the teaser with all of the things was just great.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Previously, all we've ever gotten is Thing 1 and Thing 2, whereas, near as I can figure, I was looking in the crowd, we get Thing 1 through Thing 18.
Yes. Everyone needs a minion, Jim. That's
That's true. That's very true. The other thing I thought was fascinating, though, is if you Google Cat in the Hat First Look, we got our first image of this film. In fact, I want to say it came out of Comic-Con last year. And it's a very different take on the Cat in the Hat than the one in this trailer, which, again, by the way, I love. It's stylized, it's slick, it just looks killer. Cannot wait on this film, and more to the point, I can't wait to explore the Institute for the Institution of Imagination and Inspiration, which, by the way, is supposedly an LLC. So it's the III LLC. But anyway, that's next February. And when we get back from this next break, we're going to share some news about some animation professionals who are moving on to new things, and also going to take a look back at, do you remember the series at all, Drew, The Mouse Factory?
No, I do not. Is this,
okay.
Okay, let's do it.
We'll do that in a sec. But first this.
I just MailChimped my marketing.
You MailChimped your what?
I MailChimped my marketing with AI to create an effective marketing campaign in minutes.
No, MailChimp and Way.
Yes, MailChimp and Way. Now I can hyper-personalize my campaigns across email and SMS.
You can do all that with MailChimp?
What did I just MailChimp and say?
MailChimp your marketing with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-ons. Visit MailChimp.com.
Amazon One Medical presents Painful Thoughts.
I've been on hold to make a doctor's appointment for 23 minutes now. The automated voice has told me 47 times that my call is very important to them. I'm starting to think that they don't think my call is important at all.
With Amazon One Medical 24/7 virtual care, you'll get help fast without having to remain on the line to make an appointment. Amazon One Medical. Healthcare just got less painful.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks. Smooth, bright, deliciously crafted. Introducing Starbucks Sansera Blend, their smoothest, brightest coffee yet. It's a new kind of light roast, one that's packed with so much flavor, it shines no matter how you brew it. So go ahead and try it hot, iced, black, or with a splash of creamer. Visit athome.starbucks.com/Sansera-blend-coffee to bring Starbucks Sansera Blend home.
And we're back. Okay, so look, if the other night, again, Nancy, I'll be working. Nancy has the television on, and I want to say it was ABC Family had the hand-drawn version of Aladdin on, and the tail end gag for the one jump number in that, right, where the guards all land in the cart full of manure for Hakim's manure service or something like that.
Yes, of course.
All right, so but who they caricature there at that moment, right?
No, who do they caricature? Tell me.
The gentleman with the clothespin on his nose and working the shovel, so to speak, that's Tom Cito, who anybody who knows anything about animation, Tom's been in the business for 50 years now. In fact, actually, first feature he worked on was with Richard Williams, Raggedy Ann and Andy, the musical adventure released back in '76. Both Tom and Eric Goldberg got their start on that movie. After that, Tom spent time working in television animation on shows like He-Man and Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. But Richard Williams had so enjoyed working with Tom that when he got his next big project lined up, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he invited Tom to come over to London and work on the animated portions of that movie with him. And that, when he returned to LA in '88, Tom then became a mainstay at Disney Feature Animation. Worked on Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, obviously, Lion King, Pocahontas, Fantasia 2000, and Dinosaur. But in '95 or thereabouts, Tom decamped for DreamWorks. Helped to get DreamWorks Animation set up, and then worked on movies like Ants and Prince of Egypt, and Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. And in fact, he has some amazing stories about working on the first Shrek movie. But at the same time, he cared about the industry he worked in. He became the president of the Motion Picture Screen Cartoonist Local 839. Also, at Warner's, got the chance to direct. He did Osmosis Jones and also contributed to another project with Eric Goldberg, Looney Tunes Back in Action. And while all of this is going on, Tom is also teaching animation at USC, UCLA, Cal Arts, Woodbury College, the American Film Institute. So just to recap here, 50 years in the business, 41 years of teaching, 32 of those years at the University of Southern California. And just this week, and in fact, I have to credit Nancy, she caught this on social media, which is where Tom announced it, he's putting in for retirement. I bring this up because I know, Drew, every year you do CTN Expo. That's the animation industry event held in November, right?
I don't know I've actually never been to CTN. I've been to Lightbox, but I've actually never been to CTN.
Sorry,
and
I'm confusing the two.
I am dying to go. Yeah. But
Okay.
What is he doing this year?
Well, evidently they're mounting a celebration of Tom's career, and the idea that they're just putting out the word to his students that there'll be an event held at CTN Expo. Students turning up, but also his colleagues, and so we'll keep you posted on that, folks, as we get more details on that. But Mr. Cito has written 3 books, Moving Innovation, The History of Computer Animation, Drawing the Line, The Untold History of the Animation Unions, from Bosco to Bart Simpson, and also the 40th anniversary edition of Timing for Animation. But the one that's also worth checking out here is, again, Tom has worked with everyone. Folks from the Golden Age, and that's, again, he has amazing stories, but he also managed to collect recipes from folks like Chuck Jones and Frank Thomas and Mary Blair. So he actually put out a cookbook back in 2019 called Eat, Drink, Animate, an Animator's Cookbook.
Did you see that Andreas Deja has a book coming out?
No.
About Milt Kahl. It's a biography / art of book for Milk Hall. So
holy cow! When did that get announced?
It just was announced the other day. There's like very little information about it, but he did a mock-up of the cover art, it looks amazing.
Do we have a ballpark on it, or
no? There's no release date. If you go to Andreas's blog, he has done countless Milk Call posts.
Oh yeah.
Oh
wow.
Yeah,
okay.
the cover art is there, but he claims that Disney has said that they will be fully participating. So hopefully this, all the artwork he gets and everything else will be really great. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to just yesterday I was on Amazon and it's like the new Ron Clements book has been scrubbed off of that thing. I mean, I used his name, I used the title of the book. It doesn't come up in any way, shape, or form. So I'm always a little hesitant when it's like, oh, it's coming from Disney Publishing. You should live so long.
Yeah. This does not even have a publisher yet. It's just called The Art of Milk Hall, Master of the Disney Style. And there's a great image from Rescuers on the cover.
That's killer. Oh,
yeah.
I can't wait. But back to Mississito now. Again, want to wish Tom a well-earned retirement. But again, after a brief rest, he has such amazing stories. And again, he knows everyone. It's like, okay, Tom, it's time to write the memoirs. So, now, by the way, not the only person in animation moving on. Amidi, who co-founded Cartoon Brew with Jerry Beck back in 2004, and then began running that site on his lonesome back in 2013 when Jerry stepped away to form a new site, Cartoon Research. And again, if you cover animation, if you're interested in animation, Cartoon Brew is a place you go to daily. Mind you, starting in 2022, Amid was joined by Jamie Lang, who became Cartoon Brew's editor-in-chief. And as of July 1st, did you see this? That Jamie is now going to become that site's sole owner, publisher, and editor.
Yes, this was all a buzz at Annecy, Jim. The impending takeover of Cartoon Brew.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because Jamie was actually there covering for Variety. He's a contractor for their international outpost because I believe he lives in Spain or something. So, I mean, Cartoon Brew is really interesting. It's had such an interesting history. I love Amid. I think he's the best, and I'm very fond of Jamie as well, so I think this is going to be in really good hands, and I think he's got some big plans for the site, and I wish him the best of luck for sure. We need Cartoon Brew in the world.
Absolutely. And also worth noting here that Amid has promised he's going to continue to be involved in animation. And project number 1 is his more than a decade in the works book. If it ain't fun, to hell with it. Ward Kimball's Adventures in Disney Jazz Trains and the Avant-Garde, which is finally supposed to be published next year in late 2026. And Drew, Ward's been on my mind a lot today. That's because, on the day that this podcast goes live, Tuesday, July 8th, that's actually when we lost this Disney legend back in 2002 at the age of 88. And since there's been so much talk lately about the Muppets, what with the closing of Muppet Vision 3D at Disney Hollywood Studios, I'd like to talk about a weird connection that the original syndicated version of the Muppet Show has with Ward Kimball. And for starters, look, they would have never have been a Muppet Show if it weren't for the primetime access rule. And you know about this, Drew, that weird bit of legislation that the FCC rammed through in the early 70s where they effectively gave back to, 50 local stations in the top markets of the United States, that they gave them back the 7:30 to 8 o'clock time slot. And what's interesting about this is that Jim Henson had tried for years to convince NBC, CBS, ABC to get behind the idea of a prime time Muppet Show, something that would air on one of the major networks. But it didn't happen. But he saw this legislation as a huge opportunity, because obviously TV stations around the country would be looking for a half-hour-long show that they could then drop into that slot, if only so they could sell the commercial time. So this is when Henson got in bed with Sir Lou Grade over at ITV, and everybody knows the end of this story. The Muppet Show debuts in syndication September of 1976, runs for 5 seasons, huge success, moves the Muppets to the next level of stardom. Because face it, before that, they were basically guests, on variety shows of the day, like the Flip Wilson Show or the Sonny and Cher Show. And they then moved to becoming a hot enough act that they can support their own feature films for theatrical release. But here's the thing, Drew. The syndicated Muppet Show didn't get out of the gate, again, till September of 1976, whereas The Mouse Factory, which was this half-hour-long show that Ward Kimball created for Walt Disney Productions, which was ready for TV stations, the top 50 markets, to begin airing within months of this primetime access rule going into effect. And just to be clear here, primetime access rule starts at the beginning of the 1971-1972 television season. That officially gets underway the week of September 13th through the 19th, 1971. And the very first episode of The Mouse Factory debuts in syndication on January 26, 1972. So just 4 months after this legislation goes into effect. And also, Drew, you're going to love this because a lot of Mouse Factory episodes are available over on YouTube. And if you cold-bloodedly watch this thing, there's a surprising amount of commonality with the Muppet Show. I mean, each week a celebrity shows up, a Jonathan Winters, a Don Knotts, a Dom DeLuise, only instead of checking in with Pops, the stage doorman at the Muppet Theater, these celebrities are literally clocking in at Disney Studios, the Mouse Factory. But instead of puppets, the Mouse Factory had performers dressed in the character walk-around costumes that were used down at Disneyland. These are the versions of the character that are acting with the guests each week, appearing in skits with them. And now, downside of that idea, Drew, is that the park actually insisted that if the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy from Disneyland was going to appear on the Mouse Factory, the performers in those suits had to follow the exact same rules that the cast members did down in Anaheim, which meant no talking, which kind of limited what these Disney characters could do in skits in the Mouse Factory. And also, to be clear here, the Mouse Factory, very heavily influenced by Laugh-In, hour-long comedy variety show that debuted on NBC in January of 1968 and then went on to run on that network for the next 5 years. So it's lots of quick cuts and gags. And Kimball, as soon as he saw Laugh-In, was like, Disney has this huge film library. We can do something similar to that. But he had to sell Mouse House managers on the idea. So this is why he makes... Well, have you ever seen this, Drew? It's Tough to Be a Bird. Okay. Okay. So this is a mix of live action and animation. Incredibly cheap to produce, only 21 minutes long. But here's the thing. It gets released to theaters December of 1969. And it then goes on to win the Oscar for the Best Short Subject at the 42nd Academy Awards, held at the Dorothy Chandler in April of 1970. And by the way, there is a direct connection between Laugh-In and It's Tough to Be a Bird. Ward Kimball hired Ruth Buzzy, who was a member of the cast of that NBC show. She played Gladys Ormsby. But Buzzy, Ward hired her to sing When the Buzzards Return to Hinkley Ridge for the soundtrack of this movie. And by the way, this song is famous for the very un-Disney line, Mother Nature sends the word, she is giving us the bird.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Ward actually uses his Oscar, which nobody expected, to convince Disney management that, look, we can do something similar to It's Tough to Be a Bird for television. And to prove that this wasn't a one-shot, the following year, 1970, Kimball produces a follow-up project, Dad, Can I Borrow the Car?, which goes out into theaters December of 1970. Not as acclaimed as Tough to Be a Bug, but Dad, Can I Borrow the Car? Proves Ward's point that making these sort of 21, 22-minute long things, which again, that's perfect for a half-hour-long show that you're going to push out to local stations in the 50 major markets in the U.S. It's just like, look, it's doable. And again, we have all of this archive footage in the Disney vault. And in fact, Drew, there was a show on Universal that John Landis wrote Dream On. Is that the show that they literally created?
With the one with Brian Benben where he would sort of have flashbacks to
yes.
different... Yeah. That was on HBO, in the, I feel like early 90s maybe? Yeah.
Right. But Landis, I mean, that's my understanding as well. Universal was moaning about the fact that they had this film library that they just weren't using. And Landis was like, well, maybe I can do something with that. And that's how he got Dream On. But anyway, back to Mouse Factory. Put in production 71. 2 seasons of the syndicated show were produced. A total of 43 episodes. Does well enough in the ratings that a 3rd season is already in the works. Scripts are being written when in March of 73, Walt Disney Productions suddenly announces that it is ending the syndicated series. So what happened here? The way it's been explained to me, Drew, is that the ratings of Disney's Sunday night anthology show, The Wonderful World of Disney, which previously, year in, year out, had been in the top 20 ratings-wise, they had begun to show erosion in the early 70s. And according to research that programming department at NBC provided to executives at Disney, the problem here was that The Wonderful World of Disney was no longer special, no longer appointment television, because, well, again, the Mouse Factory was playing in the top 50 TV markets around the country in syndication on various days of the week, and folks didn't have to wait anymore for their weekly Disney fix on Sunday nights on NBC. And so you could hear the unsaid thread here, right, Drew?
Yes.
Just if you want to keep your cozy network time slot. By the way, by this point, the Disney Sunday night TV show had been on NBC since 61. Again, you want to keep that broadcasting berth, your syndicated thing needs to go away, which is why the Mouse Factory, out ahead of the start of physical production of season 3, unceremoniously canceled March of 73. Ward is understandably furious, which is why in August of that same year, 73, he retires from Walt Disney Productions after 39 years of working at the Mouse Factory. Mind you, not 40 years, 39. I mean, Ward was so angry he wasn't willing to wait for a nice, neat, round number before he officially walked away from Disney. He so hated the company management team back then, which Ward considered a bunch of corporate cowards. He just wanted out. And to sort of bring this full circle, one of the reasons that Amid's book has been in the works for more than a decade now is that, well, he took it to Disney because they had to approve it for artwork, right? I mean, in fact, that's what's going to be interesting about Andreas's book. Because to use images from what Milt Kahl worked, obviously Disney has to sign off on it. And what happened with the earlier version of Ward's book is that Disney didn't want Amid to be sharing stories like this, and just flat out said, we won't give you the art if you tell stories similar to the Mouse Factory thing. And in fact, the publisher, I want to say, canceled the project because Disney wouldn't cooperate. And so this is why it took Amid years, but we're finally getting next year. If it ain't fun, to hell with it, which kind of describes the whole Mouse Factory experience. But again, Ward Kimball's Adventures in Disney Jazz Trains in the Avant-Garde will be published next year, late 2026. And I honestly cannot wait to see what it says about Mouse Factory, which, again, could have been Disney's The Muppet Show, except for the Mouse House managers who, back when there were only 3 major television networks, opted about a pressure, reportedly, from NBC and canceled The Mouse Factory. But anyway, speaking of stuff that I'm looking forward to, that I always enjoy listening to, if you're not already listening to Drew Taylor's other podcast, Light the Fuse, which is the official Mission Impossible podcast, which Drew does with his other co-host, the talented Charles Hood, you are missing out on some truly great behind-the-scenes stories when it comes to modern Hollywood. And now we are revisiting The Final Reckoning.
We've just got some more episodes for The Final Reckoning, which hopefully will be announced soon. Maybe before I could talk about Comic-Con, maybe after. Who knows, Jim, at this point. But we've got some great episodes coming up there. So be sure to subscribe to that.
Okay,
and what about you, Jim? What's going on your side of the street?
Well, again, we have all sorts of shows here at Jim Hill Media we'd love for folks to check out. We got Disney Dish with Len Testa. We got the Epic Universal podcast I do with Eric Hersey, who produces a lot of the shows here for Jim Hill Media. Likewise, I Want That Too, the Disney Merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you about Manufacturing Magic. That's the themed entertainment history podcast that we host here. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. We've got a brand new episode of that series going up this coming Saturday, July 12th. And, of course, there's also Disney Unpacked, our Patreon show last month. That's the thing I do with Len Testa and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul. We took a look at the Muppets after the Disney company finally acquired those characters in February 2004. Later this week, we're going to be recording this month's show, which will discuss the history of Test Track at Epcot. And as we close up shop here, folks, could you please do Drew and I a favor? Head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, Fine Tooning, but also Light the Fuse. And social media. Where can the nice folks find you, Drew?
On Instagram and X, mostly at Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. And where can people find you, Jim?
Okay, I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. So again, just a reminder, Drew is hosting a panel he can't talk about yet on July 25th down at San Diego Comic-Con. Look forward to hearing what that's about. But beyond that, on behalf of Mr. Taylor, thanks for listening to this week's Fine Tuning, and we will be back soon.